Welcome everyone who's just joined. This is the fifth and final talk of our series called The Art of Printmaking International. This series of 5 talks has aimed to present the work and history of 5 printmaking studios based all over the world and connect their respective audiences and networks to each other. This program of talks is part of Castle Mills Then and Now, which is a heritage project by Edinburgh Printmakers and supported by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, which is made possible by money raised by National Lottery players. The fifth and final talk this evening is given by Spike Print Studio in Bristol, and we have added their website and social media in the chat for you to sort of see and access. Before we begin, I would just like to ask all attendees to please remain muted for the duration of the talk. After the presentation by our speakers, there will be time for questions where you can ask them using either the raise hand option on your screen and wait to be called, or type your question in the chat and myself or my colleague Namara will read it out to our speaker on your behalf. So the talk tonight is moderated by my colleague Namara Byron-Law. Namara has a BA. Namara is our EP studio assistant, and she has a BA in illustration from the University of West of England, UE, Bristol, and has developed her printmaking skills there. So she joined Edinburgh Printmakers in 2022 as studio assistant, where she supports our members in their use of the studio and is involved in many engagement programs and events, creating opportunities for our internal community and the general public to learn, develop, and celebrate together the wonders of printmaking. So Namara, thanks for joining me today. I'll leave it with you to start us up.
Thanks, Ilaria. Yeah, it's a great pleasure this evening to be involved in such an amazing project organised by Ilaria, but also to be speaking to Spike Print Studio. And I'm just going to give a little history about Spike. And Spike Print Studio was founded in 1976 under the name of Bristol Printmakers Workshop and changed its name in 1997 to Spike Island Printmakers after becoming a licensee of Spike Island Art Space. It has always been a membership organisation and currently has 168 members. Over the years, it has grown its national reputation and is respected for its abilities to support novice printmakers alongside experienced artists. And our speakers from Spike this evening are Katie Chard, studio manager, and Emma Stibben, RA, who is a founding member of the studio, as well as an active member using the studio as a vital part of her practice. She has also joined the board of trustees, and she will talk about the studio in relation to her artistic practice and processes and the presses that she uses for her techniques as well. And we're also joined by Emily John, who is the current awardee of the Peter Reddick Bursary for Innovation in Contemporary Relief Printing. And she will talk about her experience at Spike Print Studio as a newcomer and her love of the relief process, as well as her current work in progress. You can find all information on their website and social media handles, which I think Ilaria said are in the chat. Yeah, cool. So yeah, I guess kicking off with some questions for you guys. What is the history of your studio and how did it come about? When was it founded?
Okay, hi. Can I just firstly say thank you for including us in this programme of talks. It's a real honour and it's been really lovely listening in and seeing all the print studios. So we've had that pleasure of watching them all before we have to do it. So yeah, just they're all been so varied and so so unique in their space. yeah, really just lovely to see all that passion and dedication that we get here in other studios. So yeah, we're in Bristol, and we were founded, as you said, in 1976, and that was Peter Reddick. So he was part of a group of artists, and just behind where we are now. So we sit on Spike Island. Spike Island is an art space which you'll hear more about as we talk about the history, but it's also an island. So we really are between the floating harbour and the tidal Avon River in Bristol. And just behind here by the SS Great Britain, there used to be a warehouse called McArthur's Warehouse. And that was where Bristol Art Space began. And that was artists and printmakers taking over a big space because they needed space to work big and produce art. And kind of in 1976, it was just an artist collective with a kind of mind to pool equipment and materials and share space and have space to make. So Peter was obviously part of that and printmaker, and his prime motivation was to promote print for everyone and kind of provide a facility that people could come to after education. So obviously you need a lot of equipment and a space that people could come and use. And Emma was part of that original art space, and Martin Grimmer, who's our one of our tutors and our master printmaker, he was there as well. So they're all still in the studio today working. So yeah, the McArthur Warehouse, there's a really great video buried on our website if you want to kind of watch that nostalgic run through, but that really kind of gives you the atmosphere and that sort of what's the just that togetherness of and just being able to do. There was no money, and there was determination, and I think it's, you know, the sort of 70s going into the 80s. There's quite political, but really interesting history. And then it was in the McArthur building until 1997, when they acquired Spike Island, which was the former Brook Bond tea factory, and Art Space and what was Bristol Print Workshop then kind of took it over and became a limited company. Is that right? And so I think we refer to it now as top floor studios because they're on the top floor, and sculpture and print. And those were the three founding groups that got together and started what is today Spike Island. And currently Spike Island and Spike Print Studio are two separate charities. So, but yeah, I think back in 1997 when we moved in here, Peter and Martin kind of physically built the studio, didn't they? They yeah, it was a lot of commitment and kind of hard work, and just, I mean, there was so many people there that I probably, you know, I can't mention them all, but it was just a real kind of working together to make a space to make prints. And so yeah, Spike Island emerged from that at the same time as we did. Obviously Peter is no longer with us, but he was just such an incredible person. I was lucky enough to, you know, to meet him and share time in the studio with him. And I think his principles from that time we still go with those today, of just supporting and promoting printmakers and teaching printmaking. You know, essentially we do now what we did then.
So do you call yourself an open access studio as well? Is that?
Yeah, we do. So we call ourselves, yeah, Open Access Print Studio.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a members-led organisation, so it's still very grassroots kind of organisation.
Yeah, I mean, so that was, yeah, at that point we changed our name to Spike Island Printmakers in '97, and then in 2017 we changed again to Spike Print Studio, and that's when we got charitable status. So yeah, so when I joined here in 2004, when we'd already been in Spike Island for 8 years, and at that time Peter was here and Martin was here, and Irena Chapska was here, and she has been studio director for the last sort of 20 years. So we've worked together for a long time. And I think kind of the history of that is her and Peter shared a big ethos and kind of built that vision together. And then she carried that on with, you know, all the love and dedication that she'd poured in over the years, making it the space that it is. And, you know, same with Peter in setting it up, and everyone that's involved. It's a real community.
Is it worth saying, I mean, we don't get public funding for Spike Print Studio, so it's very much a kind of members really, we rely on a lot of membership volunteer time. Obviously we have staff as well, but it's very part-time, so it's always sort of existed in that way, that it's carried forward by the membership, really kind of being kind of part of the running of the place. And the, you know, that's
I'm sure that enriches the feeling though of you know, the people working there are very invested in it, and
Exactly.
just makes it, yeah,
it's a labour of love. I mean, you know, we've over the last 20 plus years, Irena and myself and Jess and everyone, just, you know, it's not just a job really, it's a way of life, screen printing and printmaking in general. And you kind of, yeah, you're here and you're pouring all the hours in.
yeah,
and I think
I feel that.
I think it came across in all the talks that it's, you know, so yeah, we've just yeah, I think becoming a charity was sort of a natural progression. Irena had set up a huge amount of projects. I mean, our learning program is a huge thing, which we'll get to, and Jo Handsome is our learning program coordinator. And together they set up a program that's evolved over the years, and alongside that, trying to reach communities and people who wouldn't usually have access. So kind of we've done community work and projects that have been funded over the years to kind of reach out to, you know, young carers and homeless people and displaced people, to kind of give them space. And you know, that kind of idea, which I think Irena was always very passionate about, was to you know, transforming lives through printmaking and art.
Like facilitating,
yeah, just being that community. Yeah. And then obviously simultaneously over the years we've kind of evolved in the way we run, and kind of bringing in editioning and other projects. But essentially, yeah, we now kind of try to sustain ourselves in what we do, because we don't get funding, and we all know how hard it is. So we're trying to function in a way that, I mean, obviously the pandemic and the cost of everything now and the change in funding, so we have to self-sustain. So, you know, we carry that ethos that comes from the beginning, and we work with that in our current environment.
That must present quite a lot of challenges then, you know, depending on people to help, and, you know, financially as well. That must be quite turbulent at times.
Yeah. Yes, is the answer to that. And but I think it's born out of that spirit of we'll do it and we'll make it work, and everyone that comes here is really invested in it being a place that exists and stays. And you know, I remember coming here after uni and just like just a little slice of magic, and I never really left, so been here ever since. Yeah, I think we have had funding and, you know, project funding and everything, but generally poor costs. Yeah, but it's looking at our learning program and our membership and how we can make that sustain what we do day to day. And then we can look at, we have kind of project work and other things that then funding can come for, and working with other partners and things. So yeah, it's
yeah, could you tell us a bit more about your kind of general studio structure and the sort of education that you provide people with? I actually did see an Instagram post today of, I think it was a surface design artist that you've got coming in. I forget her name, but it looked really cool.
Yes, so that's our summer schools, which I'll promote later. But yeah, so the way we work now is our learning program runs on a Monday and Tuesday, and we run from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, three sessions, well, 6 sessions, morning, afternoon and evening across both studios. That will make more sense when we do the studio tour. And that's that's kind of starting with our 5-year-long courses. So we, I mean, just to set up the kind of background of it, we're in Bristol with UWE, and UWE has obviously an MA in print and Centre for Print Research. So print is, you know, print is heavy in Bristol. And so there's a real kind of feed from UWE to us and us to you. So we run year courses. We do a year in print, which gives you a little taste of everything. And then we do specialist ones, so year screen, year relief, year etching, and year textiles. And then alongside those, we have our 10 weeks, which are usually, yeah, screen, etching, just from beginners to intermediate. We run masterclasses, we run weekend workshops, we do a huge program. And then obviously, as you've just seen, we've got our summer schools coming up. So we're doing, in July, we've got some really brilliant ones. We've got a paper making one with Elaine Cooper, who is a master paper maker, works across her studio in Japan and here. And I think the one that you noticed was probably the wallpaper printing with Justina Menon, and she's a wallpaper conservationist and textile artist. So yeah, and that really kind of that's a lot of input and a lot of time, and we have an amazing team headed up by Joe Hanson who put that together. And then alongside that, we're trying to do some offshoots, because we the rest of the week is membership. So we've got some off-site things, like we're working with Spike Island and the cafe downstairs to do new sessions like drawing people, where we have a model, a clothes model, like themed each week, just to give everyone in the building a chance to kind of have fun, and you can go and print there, or you can just draw. And then we run sessions alongside our learning program, currently once a month. Free sessions with a charity called Borderlands. They are a Bristol-based charity that you know, give time and space for refugees and asylum seekers and vulnerable migrants, and they give them a place to belong. And so we are really lucky. We have Amy Hutchins, who facilitates that for us. She's a member, but she coordinates that as part of our community and charity work. And we have an amazing little team of volunteers that make that happen and give a space to people to come and create. So yeah, the learning program is great, and it's really, you know, it's really filling. There's definitely demand for it. We've got lots coming up. That's on our website. And then the other part of the studio is the membership, and that is on a Wednesday and Thursday. And again, we run from 9 in the morning right through to 9 at night. And you have different categories of membership. And Wednesday and Thursday are technician days, so there's somebody here to help and support members across all techniques. And we are lucky that she's not here tonight, but we have the incredible Lucy Murter as our lead technician. She's our technical manager, and she's incredible and supports our lovely tech team, and Andrew, Lee, Jess, Martine, and Ruby. And that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, of course, members have access throughout the week. So not on obviously Monday, Tuesday, but
no,
it's not just Wednesday, Thursday.
No, but then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is keyholder membership, which is So the studio functions 24/7, whereas the office only functions Monday to Thursday. So yeah. Keyholder membership is something that is an incredible offer. They have keys and they come and go, and I think it's quite unique, and we have some amazing artists that use it as their production place for their practice.
It sounds like a very well-oiled machine running. I like the idea that, you know, you are literally 24/7, because that's not the case at EP. Actually, we have slightly different schedule, but it's interesting how you separate as well education always on Monday and Tuesday, and then the membership the rest of the week. That's quite an interesting divide. Definitely some food for thought.
Yeah.
I think as a member, it's helpful because you just know Mondays and Tuesdays you can't print. We found that when it was sort of at different times of the week, times of the year, you know, you'd always mess up, even if you got an email telling you come in on the wrong day. So yeah, but the 24/7 thing is fantastic. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people audition at night just because the studio is empty and you can really spread out.
I mean, because it's good to cater as well to different creatives and different people, because some people are very creative towards the end of the day and into the later part. I'm definitely like that. So, and then other people are early bird and they're straight away on it. They've got all these ideas. So yeah.
Is this a good time to go for a walk and see the space?
Yeah, I guess so. That would be lovely. It's nice to see people printing in the background as well as you're talking.
Yeah, well, we thought we wouldn't close the studio. We just let it be so you can see it in action.
Brilliant.
Right.
Just take it away when you're ready.
Let me sorry, it's a little. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, lovely. So we're in the etching studio at the moment. Got some lovely members here. We've got Saskia, Theo, Ollie, all busy working away. So we've got a little run through of our presses. So in front of us here, some of them have got names. So this is Shirley, named after the person that donated it a very long time ago. Shirley's very hardworking. We call this one the Little Gem. That's our relief printing proofing press. And then Emma's favourite, we've got the Tofco. That's our biggest. That's our biggest etching press. The Albion, lovely, beautiful Albion press, and then our Hunter Penrose number 8, which we just call number 8. And yeah, this has been through a lot of TLC recently. And yeah, they all work hard.
Yeah.
And then down here we have our inking area and hot plates, and our drying boards. If I'm going too fast, then just stop me.
Well, I just wanted to comment on how tidy and clean it is.
Thanks.
It's beautiful.
So here's the river. There's the lovely Avon River. That will go all the way up under the suspension bridge. So we're really lucky.
It's an absolute joy to work in here because it's tidal, the river.
Yeah.
So it's
Lovely.
different. We're really lucky.
I actually used to live in Hotwells, so I've walked down
lovely.
there quite a few times.
Yeah, I think the ebb and flow of the river kind of has a calming effect because you realise, you know, things are just going to change and things will come and go. So it's kind of nice. Okay, this shed in the middle is in here we've got our aquatint room. We're quite lucky, it's quite a big aquatint box.
Yeah, that's really big.
To keep up with, so we've got a lovely little spot in here, keeps it all contained.
I've not seen one like that before. That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Electric fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as beautiful as the one in Florence, but it's still good. And that's our little solvent room. So we keep all the solvents in one room tucked out of the way so that the studio is solvent free. Got our lovely metal cutting guillotine here. It's a beast, but yeah, it's great. And then just our ferric area. So we predominantly use ferric chloride for etching. We do some copper sulfate, but the ferric sits there for general use most of the time, and we teach ferric chloride.
That colour is very iconic. It gets everywhere somehow.
Yeah, I know. It's a little etching straight off the press. There you go.
Lovely.
They're just sitting on the boards waiting to be dried. Right, we're going to go down the corridor, and we're going to just to change up. Here's some of our editioning is framed up on the walls. So that's a lovely print by Sophie McPherson that we editioned. And then we've got a beautiful one by Richard Forster and an incredible 3-plate photopolymer for the artist Jed Quinn.
Wow.
Martin Grimmer is our master printmaker in etching and polymer. So this one you're looking at now is Marina Nidecker, and then there's Andrew Mania print there. So yes, we up in our little corridor, which you can see, and there's more down there. So I'm gonna take you up the red staircase, and I'm going to, just so you can see a view, bear with me on this, because there we go. There is the screen print studio.
Oh, wow.
It's a really lovely spot to kind of get up and look back down at your work. So yeah.
That's brilliant.
Quite
a few presses as well. Have you got about 5 in there? 5 screen print?
We've got 6 screen beds. So screen is really popular.
Yeah.
And our screen print courses, I mean, I think that's maybe a Bristol thing, but to
be honest,
kind of fast-paced graphic.
Yes, I think screen printing, I mean, it is popular here as well. We do get a very high turnover of people doing courses for that as well. So, and I think you're right, it's that fast nature.
Yes. This is our dark room. There's Martin.
Hello.
And working away. And this is Emma's favourite. This is the polymer only exposure unit. So we're very lucky that we have an exposure unit for polymer plates only.
But that size.
And that size, so yeah.
And alternative.
And alternative prints, yes. Yeah.
It's very fantastic.
Right, and then, yeah. Well, so we're back down the stairs and in through screen. So yeah, a lot of screens, a lot of, the studio is used a lot, as you heard from our learning program and our membership, and the 24/7 7, so everything gets a lot of use. Here's our huge LED exposure unit.
Wow.
Really lucky to have that. That's yeah, it's great, very quick.
Yeah,
and then
that
an
does look
incredibly
very-
massive washout room.
Oh my goodness.
Which is, so we can fit screens in that are our biggest bed. So what we're looking at, like 1 meter by 2 meters. So yeah, we can produce pretty big screen prints. There's an amazing one. I can't show you it because it's right downstairs, that we auditioned for Wood & Harrison, which is yeah, it's got 100 tiny drawings, but it's really good. Okay, and then computer area. There's lots of desk space, and there's that's our Vandercook press. Now this is Peter's baby, and he loved it so much, used it so much, and was pretty determined that it wouldn't go anywhere because it's actually cemented into the floor. So so it's with us forever.
Yeah, worth saying about the type as well. It's set for type. So
yes.
Alongside image.
Yeah, so I think there are only maybe a handful of these this size, and it's automatic as well. Yeah, so it prints type high, so you can use it for letterpress, but we also occasionally have polymer plates set to type high, and they can be printed, so kind of bringing it up to date for use. And then through the big door you go out, and that's the top floor of Spike Island. So this right next to us is Emma's studio in there.
A real mess, but
I'm only allowed to glance in for you.
Coincidence. I've got about 400 square feet. My
Oh, wow.
studio's, you know, perhaps on the larger side, but it does give me fantastic wall space, top lit. If you just glance up to
so
the
we've got the skylights,
and I've got banks of you know, press of fan chests, which I keep all my editions in. Fairly disorganized. Yeah, there we go.
yeah. There's a little glimpse, and then yeah,
But right alongside the print workshop.
so we're right next door, and then Martin next door to that, and then artist studios all down there.
There are 70 individual studios alongside the print workshop, which are run by Spike Island. So they're separate company, but obviously we're all in the same building.
The most used area, obviously, is just the kettle and the communal area. But yeah, and then we'll come back here. More editioning up on the walls. So that's a smaller version of a Wood & Harrison print. Then we've got our little office. There's Joe and Andrew. And then we'll finish with this amazing woodcut by Peter Reddick, which sits outside our office. Yeah, absolutely stunning detail. And yeah. So yeah, we're gonna go back in here and carry on with questions. I hope that wasn't too juddery and too
No, it was brilliant. It was really, really good to see the space, and you guys have actually got quite a lot of space.
We have, yeah, we're really lucky against the 2 studios. I mean, it's crammed in, but it's yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many thousand square feet we've got, is it?
No, I don't know the square
About
footage,
2,500
but yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. That was a real insight into where you make your work, Emma. And I was wondering maybe if we wanted to guide towards you a little bit after having a peek at your studio as well there.
Fine, yes, I'm happy to do that. And I've done a sort of whistle-stop tour through, having seen the presses. I thought maybe if you could upload or start my PowerPoint images, I can just describe some of the presses that I use in my work.
Yeah, just 1 minute.
Yes, no, I know it's always whilst you're doing that, I mean, I obviously prints, you know, that's been an absolute sort of cornerstone having the studio here, because it's a really important part of my drawing practice. And yeah, I've obviously been here a long time. I think it's 50 years of Spike Print Studio next year, and I realised I'm 40 years of being a member next year. So that's a long time. So I obviously started with the original McArthur's workshop. Spike, I think we were called Bristol Printmakers Workshop in those days, and you know, that's followed through to today, which obviously is, I should think, 4 or 5 times what we had there. I think, you know, for me, it's the commitment to the studio is obviously for my practice, but actually I realise over the years it's really grown into an absolute, you know, it is like a home of something I really identify with, and it's beyond really my own work. I think in terms of, you know, how print is at a, you know, I think it's an axis of contemporary practice, and I think having it here is really important for the region. It's a really great facility, and you know, the actual community and the cooperation of all the members and the interaction obviously with the artists that are part of Spike Island makes it a real hub. It's really a great place to work, and yeah, it's a beautiful studio. You've seen the river alongside. Whenever you come in here, it's just is like a wow, you know. It's a joy. If you put up the first slide, please.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. So next slide.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So just taking it back a bit to what Katie was describing when we were at the Bristol Printmakers Workshop back in the 1980s when I joined. And I imagine many people now, you know, I've left art school. I didn't have access to print facilities, so I moved to Bristol for a job, and you know, there was the print workshop. So I immediately joined that. It was a bit makeshift and rackety, but it was good and it worked. We had acid in those days, which we don't now. Pigeons flying around, you know, it was freezing in the winter. But I was really grateful to be part of a print workshop, to have the facility, and also not knowing anyone when I moved to Bristol. It was nice to have a sort of community of artists to be part of. If I have my next slide, you can see Peter Reddick, who keeps getting a mention, but I honestly can't say how brilliant he was at, you know, really visionary about why print was important. And he really, you know, when we moved into this building, we did battle quite hard to get this space because it's the nicest space in the building, to be honest. But he recognised, and you know, that at the time I doubt we had more than 25, 30 members, but he, you know, he could see that's going to be a really big thing in the building, and having this prominent space, and the footfall through here is much more than I would say any other part of Spike Island. Even the gallery, I think more people come into print, and now of course we've got 160 members,
yeah,
150 plus the classes. So you know, I think it is partly the facility, but also it's the just a really beautiful space to be in. If you could do my next slide. So there we go. On the left hand side, you can see the old Brook Bond tea factory, and we were really lucky. We had again 2 really visionary artists, who Louise Barber and John O'Connor, who wrote the first lottery bid to the arts lottery, and we managed to, you know, it was like a book, the application form, for £1 million. We thought they were nuts because it took like a year to write the thing, and they were successful. So obviously we could then move in and employ an architect, etc. Although we did strip it out, you know, ourselves, and I'd blow my nose and the tea leaves would come out of my nostrils for about a month. Anyway, next slide, please. So here I'm in my studio. It's great because obviously I'm adjacent to the print workshop. I use the polymer process quite a lot. So obviously I'm drawing up my artwork there on a light box. And if you moved on to the next slide, we should see, yeah, there's the McArthur in the dark room, and I'm just exposing a plate there on the right. And yeah, if the next slide, please. Yes, so that's a two plate print. So the image above is the undercolor, and then you can see below with the black printed on top. And there I am on the Hunter Penrose, which is a really beautiful press, but I'm sort of maxing it out there. You can see the width of the plate is really tight on the bed. So if you could move on to the next slide, please. Scale has always been quite important for me in my practice. So early days, this is, you can see my hair long, and working on the floor, I couldn't do that now, I don't think. And then I'd hand print those woodcuts. So because I wanted to work big and we didn't have a press big enough, I was just relying on hand burnishing.
Wow.
And yeah, I used to get tendinitis, you know, it's really, especially if you're editioning. So if I could have the next slide.
Did you do that by yourself, Emma, as well?
Well, I did in those days, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's the print, so that's, I think, about 8 foot by 4 foot wide of a whaling.
Incredible.
It is just
In
incredible.
Antarctica. And on the next slide, we can see the Tofco, which is a fantastic press that you can lift the roller, so I can get the block under the roller to print, and in fact I can go longer than the bed length by lifting the roller and shunting the block along. So you could do, you know, a really continuous long block if you just keep shunting it through. I think it's about 1.20 meters wide. So yeah, that's absolutely been, you know, with my big wood cuts, that's really saved my wrist over the years. And it does also print, as Katie mentioned, we've got felts that are the size of that bed. So you can get quite a good intaglio and etching off there as well. So for bigger plates now, I can go a bit larger on the Tofco. So that's been a, you know, we've really, I think at all points, whenever we've had funds, which is rare, but when we do, we try and allow work to really be big. So scale across all of the processes, and we saw in screen print here with relief, but also etching, that you can really max out your plates, which has been great for me. Hope I haven't done it just to benefit myself. Loads of people work big. Next slide, please. And here I am, I'm printing here. You mentioned, do I ever have any help? I do quite often work with an editioner. This is Amy Jane Blackhall, who has her own editioning workshop in Corsham called Ink on Paper Press. So quite often for someone like me, who I'm not primarily working in print, my main practice is my drawing, and I make print probably about a third of my time. So I'll proof the plates up to the backstage here in Spike Print, and then AJ will take over the editioning part, which she does over in Corsham. But obviously here, when I'm doing an outsize piece of work, it's good to have a second pair of hands. And the next slide, please. And so, yeah, the obviously intaglio process too. Sometimes I'm etching or actinting mainly as a secondary plate to my polymer drawing plate. I might actint on a copper plate as a sort of tint behind the key image, which is the polymer. But again, the actint box is big. I think it's about 90 centimeters wide and deep, so you can get pretty big plate in there. And the next slide, please. I think that's my last slide. I mean, just to finish off, I do. It's really hard to express how fundamental that's been to me, having Spike Print Studio. You know, as an artist, I think that's been a real foundation, sort of cornerstone of my career. You know, everything being on that scale is really great. I doubt there's a facility really in the country, like we've got here in Bristol, that's adjacent to a studio. So being part of Spike Island has always been a really big thing for me, to be able to move my big blocks from one to the other. I think if I had my studio elsewhere and then had to transport the blocks to and fro, that would be impractical. And I think also the community of the other artists in the building, the gallery, the ethos of Spike Island has really, has a very respected contemporary profile in the contemporary art scene. So I think that's been a benefit to Spike Print as well. And it's a sort of symbiotic relationship being in the building together. And I think, I'm just really lucky. We all are.
We all are, yeah. It's a great space.
Good, thank you. That's the end of my slide.
Thank you so much, Emma. That was brilliant. It really does sound like it's a big part of your life, and it's lovely to meet somebody who has just been in this studio for nearly.
There are many people like me. I mean, I'm not unique. I'm sure you could almost speak to anybody in this room and they'd have the same commitment and attachment to the studio. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to see your work as well. I need to look you up after this and then discover more, because I just was shocked when you were saying about hand furnishing that huge woodcut piece. It just, that's again real commitment to the craft. So well done for that. I guess shall we move on to Emily and introduce Emily into the conversation? I don't know if.
Yeah, so Emily is our current Peter Reddick Bursary awardee, and we've been lucky enough for the Lark Trust and George Tooth particularly to fund this for us for the last nearly 11 years. So Emily's working in the studio now, and it's an award for innovation in contemporary relief printing for recent graduates. So let's hand over to Emily.
There we go. Hello. It's been really nice to hear about it all, because I obviously didn't get the opportunity to meet Peter Reddick, but it all feels very like makeshift, and that connects to me because my life is held together with hope and duct tape. Like, it's just a mess, it's chaos. I'm always freezing, and there's a bin lid tied to the roof because it's leaking right over the lazy cutter, and it's just like, oh God, it's a mess. But it's nice to hear that you were too, and now you're not. So yay!
Have you got a slideshow as well, Emily? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you see that? Can you see my notes, or can you just see the screen?
I think if you just, I mean, we can see it. So yeah, we can see your notes as well, but it's up to you.
I don't know how to change that.
I think, is it the icon that you clicked a minute ago in the bottom right corner?
This one?
Yeah, try that one again.
Oh, is it this? There we go. Is that better?
Sorry, excuse me, I've just got.
No, we can still see the notes. Can you maybe just make the note section slightly smaller? I mean, not obviously one for you to not see them, but.
I am not great with technology.
So if you just drag the line just above the notes slightly lower, that might work.
Oh yes.
Is that better?
The slide bigger. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So I am the Peter Reddick Bursary Award for Innovation in Contemporary Printmaking. And this is kind of where my practice started. So I started carving lino at school because we didn't have a lot of funding. And lino is quite cheap if you spend a lot of time on one block. And I really loved it. I would sit in maths and I would just carve away. I was a terrible student. And then I got so into it, and I would just scale up and up and up and up and up until I kind of reached the maximum size that you can buy on a roll. I did my master's at the RCA, but because it was like the first year of a 1 year and it was so oversubscribed, I didn't have access to a press. So I was also like hand burnishing these massive blocks, just like Emma, which kind of makes me laugh. But yeah, it was always hand carving. And I think this block took me about 150 hours to carve. And I went so crazy that I just couldn't hand carve anything for about a year. I just couldn't face the idea of it. I think the thing that I really love about print is its connection to technology. Like, it's always been such a good way to analyze and look at the times, because you're using a technology that is from that time, and it speaks about the socio-economic cultural background that it comes from. And it's like talking about something within its own tongue, and that is something that really connects to me and that I love. So I ended up moving back to Birmingham because it was cheaper and I could have more freedom, and I had access to all the things that I needed to make the work. So this was taking that original lino print and playing with CNC technologies. So on the left, this one is laser cut into metal. I think that one's jet cut actually, and then these were laser cut into paper, and I was playing with shadows, and it was very much like print has this incredible capacity to have an object and an image, and I really love that connection between the analog physical thing and that kind of the image that lives virtually. Like, people never see these pictures. Well, it's rare that they see the print in real life. It's normally through like a virtual representation, and I really love that kind of symbiosis between body and image. So I started pushing it in that direction, and I ended up laser engraving halftones. So I always use a linear halftone. And this is engraved into lino, but I eventually started using MDF because it was so much cheaper. I was working like 35 hours alongside my master's to kind of pay for my fees and to pay for everything and to pay for the bills at home. And because I work in building maintenance, we use a lot of MDF, a lot of scrap MDF. So I was just like ripping it off the walls at work every time we needed to take a ceiling down. I would like take it and I would laser cut it and I would make a print with it. So it was very haphazard, but we got there in the end. These are kind of just examples of scale, and also explorations of color and limited color to create that classic bold print look, which is kind of a symbiotic visual phenotype of the working characteristics of the discipline. I really love that the image is so connected to the physical and working properties of materials and processes. It feels very grounded and tactile and within reach. It makes complicated things make sense in my very black and white mind. I like simple, even when simple is hard work. We live in an age of get rich quick and reality TV, which idolizes being idle to complicated ends. That is something that makes me feel so fractured and so distant from everything that makes me human. Simple is good. Complicated is unnecessary chaos. And if all we have is time, then it's just a waste. So these are some more of my prints. They're all cut in panels because I was working to the maximum bed size of the laser cutters that I had access to at my old university. So I use linear halftones because they are so consistent. With dots, they change size, they change this, they change that. But I really love lines because they're always consistent. They just change width, and also it works with the medium. So there's never like a fully bold patch, which means that the paper doesn't deform around the plate, and it works. It's perfect. So I love that they are quite objective because I'm making comments to explore my own perception of identity and to critique culture. Linear halftones act like a visual control variable within that process to try and strip the image back and minimize bias within the fabric of whatever it is that I'm saying. They feel objective to balance out how subjective my own perception of things is. I make this work to kind of help myself figure out what is going on inside my own brain and why I feel the way that I do about my own identity and about my place within the world. So having that distance can be really helpful. And sometimes I think that when I sit in a room with all of my prints, it's like being able to actually look back at my thoughts, things that I can't articulate or verbalize. I make into prints because it has that industrialness, it has that grit, it has that socio-political background. And like with wordplay, you have that advertising slant, you have that consumerism slant that you're raised in. It's like you're sitting inside a bubble of your brain and how you relate to everything outside of yourself. And I think that's an incredibly special thing, especially like ink, and it's just such a tactile physical thing that I really love. So a lot of my work operates around the idea of hope, and the lottery became a symbol of that, because it's like the monopolization of human hope. You know, you buy into something and it's not because you think you're going to win, it's because you can hold on to the chance of winning for another week. And it's that moment of mental escape from whatever world, whatever life that is that you don't particularly want to be a part of. And this later turned into the stamp. So this one became important because it's kind of got that language of official documentation of like letters and stamps and all the things that control the way that we live, and they feel like barriers and restrictions. Especially, like, I come from a very working class background, so my grandparents, they were taxi drivers or miners or factory workers, and they were always like very resentful of the fact that they had no freedom, and they always felt this kind of class barrier as a very bureaucratic restriction against them. And so this language of very like official things became important within my practice, and I created like a second layer as a watermark just in transparent ink. And then the explanation of this piece was, so it's about being British. Our country was a powerhouse of innovation which paved the way to the modern world and earned us the title of Great Britain. This was only possible by exploiting and abusing the working class, using human time as currency to be tossed around for the benefit of the bourgeois, who would abuse the rest of the world too. The British invented the postage stamp, decorated with the sovereign. I made my own rendition of this. I can't think of anything more representative of our country than a disillusioned second class of people, traded as currency, written over and undermined by virtue signals and its own titular myth of greatness. Our collective heritage is one of unrest, friction, and fractures. That is where we grew from, and it will continue to define us if nothing is done to combat it. So my place within the UK is very much like from a working class, but also I was born under a conservative government. And that effectively means that rich people have been in charge for so long that they've had 15 years to make the divide between wealthy and poor so much worse. All these third spaces, those neutral grounds outside of like work and home, they don't exist anymore. They're gone. So all I've ever really known from the time that I was born was home, and it was school, which was always underfunded and terrible and overcrowded, and work, which I work in creative fields. I get paid minimum wage. I have 5 different contracts, 5 different workplaces that I have to think about and juggle. I don't have things like sick pay, so that is my whole world. And then the outside world always felt like a corridor between these very restrictive, official, oppressive places. And print for me has always been this way to describe that without actually having to say it within the image. It says it because it is industrial and it is political. Like, think about the Chartists and the suffragettes. It has that incredible history, and it says it without having to say it. And that was always something that was really special. But when I came to Spike, it was really nice because for the first time, I didn't really feel like an outsider. You know, I don't have like a proper fine art background, and we didn't go to London, and we didn't go to the V&A. Like, I'd never heard the word Biennale until I did my master's, and people kind of laughed because I thought I was joking. But I didn't know, and it felt like an inclusive space where it didn't matter that I didn't know, that it was welcoming and they were going to help me learn. And that was a really nice thing because it helps you relax into the space and it helps you make work. So I continued with this theme of domesticity because it says a lot about the things that I feel. So war medals, these are things that just knock around our house, and it speaks without speaking, and that's something that I really love. And this one again is just to illustrate kind of scale and color. And I think one of the things that I really do love about print is the accumulative effect. So you can really like surround yourself, you can create a world. Like, print is so central to advertising because it's fast, it's cheap, it's bold, it's loud, it's big. And scale is an important thing, but it's like it creates an immersive sense. It creates a virtual realm without even really meaning to. And I really love it because it is virtual, but it's tactile, and it's almost like it's visceral some way, and it smells really good. So this is the Marlborough project. So I started really thinking about Marlborough because I think it's a really good intersection of hope, culture, and freedom as framed by money. So it's a British brand that became synonymous with American pop culture as a device to exploit desperate people for cash, people that were desperate to not be somewhere that they didn't want to be for 10 minutes. So my granddad worked in the Austin car factory in Birmingham for 60 years. He hated every single second of it, except the time he was spent smoking outside. It ended up costing him his life, and me, my granddad, but there is no part of me that has any anger towards him because I know that feeling and I get that feeling. And I'm just really grateful that he found a way to cope so that I got to know him. But that's a really sad fact in and of itself. Like, no one should feel that way, but they do, because that is the world that we live in, the world that we exist in. And that's kind of a weight that I feel. So I started looking more at cigarettes, and they're all over the floor. And it kind of almost became a very special thing, because these things feel like home to me. And so I could find a place that felt like home wherever I went. You know, they're between paving and they're in drains, and they're waiting to be found. So when I moved to London, I really didn't feel like I belonged, but kind of being able to spot all of these Marlboro butts in some weird way gave me a space to be. And that was a really nice thing. And also, like, when I took that cigarette butt pattern and I turned it into linear halftones, it was almost like being able to turn it into information that my brain could process. It was like a really therapeutic thing. So I kept playing with that. And I ended up making these. So these are about A0. I never really worked to A sizes. I always worked to the standard sheet of MDF or the laser bed. So they're always industrial sizes, which makes everything complicated. But yeah, it was always red and black, because they're Marlboro colours, but they're also like very socialist, very communist, kind of anarchy, blah, 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 which I really love. I love that kind of that second language. And these ended up becoming subvertisements. So wordplay is something that is very important. I love language. I love writing and talking and speaking, and like the second double meanings of language. I think that's something that's very special. So for example, the tagline on this is running on fumes, ? Join the club, join the club, join the club, join the club. And it's kind of that herd mentality of pop culture that just, it idolizes being passive to it. And I think that's quite a dangerous thing, because it subscribes you to the burnout epidemic. And then this is at Spike. So all of the pieces are sort of jigsawed together. So even though it's 2-color, I very rarely faff around with 2-layer. Sometimes I do, but something that is important to me, because print is an industrial thing, is that it's efficient. You know, the more time you spend on something, the more valuable in terms of money it becomes, and then the more elite it becomes. And that thing of access is something that I feel is very important, because these spaces are traditionally not very accessible. So another one of my jobs is a ceramic technician, and I did end up translating that print theory onto a different medium, and I still think that it really retains something very special about print. And it was about the way that it distorts around bodies, and that was the whole thing. This is another woodcut. So this was a 2-layer woodcut. Same kind of themes, industrialness. And then, because everything is so political and print is so political, this is a print made at Spike. It's called Pretty Political, and it was like intersections of Japanese silk and silk routes and trades and globalization and language and all sorts. Again, more about scale. I did some posters for the Architecture Society, still all red and black. I printed some of those at Spike as well. It fits in a standard frame, so you can reuse it every time. And then postcards. I make a lot of postcards. I really love that print is this thing now, because it's not ubiquitous anymore. It's become a fine art discipline, and that kind of naturally lends itself to having free time, and having free time generally means that you have more money, so it makes it more elite, and it's become this thing that lives behind glass. But when you put something in the post, strangers are touching it, and it's kind of also a reflection on the paradigm of value, because value is based on a person's perception of what it is, which is a weird cultural thing that we have created, where like rhinestones are more valuable than diamonds, and dental veneers have become a career goal. Like, value is what you think value is. And I love the fact that it's almost like defiant to put it in the post, because it's not precious anymore. And that's something that I really love. And then this is just a big thank you for choosing me, for having me, for supporting me. This is not a space where I naturally fit, and it's somewhere where I felt uncomfortable at times. So it's been really nice to be able to be in this space and just talk to people. And it's weird, because you work with people like Emma, and she gave a talk at the RCA when I was there, and you think like, oh my God, this is insane. You're just in a room with me. How? But yeah, it's been really nice.
Emily, I'm so glad that we've not talked, and now we
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, can I just say that those prints on screen are incredible, but
awesome.
in person they are amazing. But the texture of the ink on paper and the way they're pieced together is like, yeah, you can't see it, but when you hold them, they are beautiful. So yeah. Thank you, Emily. That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that was amazing. Just to hear you speak as well. I mean, yeah, I wanted to ask you as well, how many sort of processes are you actually working in? Because it seems like you use the laser quite a lot, but do you also do like hand carving? And then are you using the laser to get those halftones onto the wood? Is that sort of the main thing that those prints are?
Yeah, so this is a plate that hasn't been printed yet. I don't know if you can see it very well. If I get a torch, maybe. But effectively, you turn a halftone into a image that can be read. I don't know, my camera is pretty terrible. But yeah, you get an image into a format that the laser can read, and then it just goes along line by line by line, and it takes away the bits of material that you want it to take. So it works in exactly the same way that hand carving traditionally would. It's just so much faster. It's something that would take me 150 hours, it can do in 6. Like, it's just, exactly. And then it's like that speed thing about production and mass, and just like keep on going and churning and moving.
Fantastic. And I love your color choices as well. I mean, I don't know if EP is red for that reason, but I like to think it is. Sorry, maybe that was a bit political to say. Well, yeah, that was fantastic. I feel like, you know, seeing some of the work that is being made in this great studio space just really paints a picture of like the people that are involved there. And yeah, I'm sort of trying to find a way to wrap it up in some way, but I feel it inspired for sure. And yeah, what a lovely way to spend a Thursday afternoon / evening now. I guess we open it up to Q&A now. If anybody that's been tuning in has any questions for any of us, yeah, I guess this is your moment. And if not, I've got plenty of questions.
We have just one question that was to clarify something. I think, Katie, you said before during the tour, towards the end when you mentioned about the other studios. So after seeing Emma's studio, did you say 70 or 17 studios?
It's 70.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Plus a really large ground floor gallery, you know, which is open to the public, a cafe. It's a massive building. Spike Island.
But that Spike Island and Spike Print Studio are two separate charities. So obviously we're really lucky because we have a relationship with them in the building, and we work with them constantly. But so with Print Studio membership, you don't get access to Spike Island and vice versa, but obviously you can have both.
Yeah, great. Because I thought I understood 70 as well, but I didn't want to say it myself. So thank you.
It might be worth also adding Spike Island, when we set it up, it's got a wood workshop, it's got a you know, metalworking, so for you know, you can do metalwork. And what's the word for metalwork? It's not a foundry, but you know, you can solder stuff. And all of that is also like a facility like here. So you know, I think when the kind of vision of those two artists when they made that lottery application was that arts at the Spike Island would be a space for production as well as showing work. So the gallery obviously is our kind of, you know, that's the front sort of shop front where the public would come in and visit the gallery, but they very much wanted it to be something beyond that. So you know, there'd be the studios, the print workshop, the workshop facilities. There's also a big commissioning space which artists can rent. It was very affordable, so if you're doing public art, so yeah, it's really ambitious. And I don't think there's another one in the country really that is like Spike Island.
No, and we don't. I mean, we don't have a gallery space, and we don't have access from the road. We're kind of tucked in, so there are things that, you know, we have to kind of work around that. So the focus a lot of the time is either in-house exhibitions, or we work with Spike Island and we audition for their artists. Again, Irena set up a huge program of that, and as a master printmaker herself, and with Martin, working with artists, building a kind of portfolio. So we're not really a production house, but we work with them, and we're talking to the new director of Spike Island, who's incredible, and looking forward to kind of auditioning hopefully next year for some of their visiting artists.
Is it too soon to say next year, because it's our 50th anniversary? So we're really in the planning stage at the moment, but to do a print fair next year, which, you know, hopefully is going to go kind of national. So yeah, that's our kind of, let's make it print really big in Bristol. You've all got to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep you posted. So yeah, really incredible kind of opportunity to open up what we do, and work with Spike Island, and they will work on a shared project where Bristol has its own print show. So to TBC.
Yes, details to follow.
Yeah, watch out, Woolwich.
Yeah. Well, actually, our director came from
she came from Nottingham Contemporary, which I believe they have a fantastic print
biennial as well. So.
And lots of our members exhibit at these places, you know, Woolwich and things. So it's really, it would be amazing to be able to just offer that here, because, you know, we are limited with what we do. Although if you want to come and see us, come in May, because the whole building opens up on the May bank holiday weekend, and we're going to open the studio. We've got an incredible members exhibition coming up where everyone's working on new prints. We've had a really incredible donation of paper from John Pastel Paper. So yeah, the whole studio will be open. There will be an exhibition within here, and lots of events going on. We're just programming some little demos and workshops. So if anyone wants to come and see the print studio and visit Spike Island, the first weekend in May is the time to come, because you'll be able to see absolutely every bit of the building.
I wonder if you've known of the print day in May, which I think is on that same weekend, Saturday the 3rd of May, which is like an international day of printmaking.
Oh.
I'll send you some details through Daria as well, because we sort of found out about it last year, and it's the Zia Mays printmaking studio in America. They sort of set it up.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, to add to all of the amazing things you're doing, that it's quite a cool thing as well, the print day in May.
Yes.
Yeah, I do need to come and visit Spike, definitely.
And also, I think we haven't really touched on this, and obviously you were at UE, but yeah, you know, UE and
the University of the West of England.
The University of the West of England, that we call UE, are I mean, I touched on it earlier, but obviously we work quite closely with them, because MA in print and the Centre for Print Research. So you know, there's a lot of print centric happening in Bristol. So yeah, definitely come and visit.
Yeah. Well, just sort of a question following on from that. So with the connections with UE and the university, what kind of opportunities do you offer to sort of young people and graduates? Obviously, I know Emily's got this fantastic bursary at the moment, but are there any other kind of like internships, or how do kind of students and young people kind of get in there and start using the space even after they've graduated as well? Is there anything you have?
Yeah, so we, I mean, we've always run a kind of program of taking MA students and having them either work as member technicians or come and do kind of periods of time with us. That's kind of changed and evolved a bit. and actually we are just about to have an intern from UWE. Nicola, he's on the MA there, so that's funded by UWE, so we can have him come and work with us in kind of shadow learning program and really learn skills of a working print shop alongside his MA. But we work quite hard. I mean, we obviously have said that we're not funded, but we work quite hard to keep our fees very low and to kind of help out and subsidise students and offer discount on membership when you're graduating from UWE for at least the first year. So yeah, we do our best, and a kind of introductory or evening membership is very reasonable. So it gives, you know, if you haven't got the budget, at least you can come and kind of have a little bit of access and kind of get into the studio. And I think we're looking at ways to expand that all the time, new conversations with UWE and kind of new projects and things. So yeah, it's, you know, Peter originally and Irena continued it, and she set up, you know, most of the awards and bursaries that we have given over the last 20-30 years. So yeah, we continue to do that today.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's definitely a priority. I mean, as well, I'm a recent-ish graduate, and I'm thinking of ways that we sort of bridge that gap between leaving uni and having all those facilities, and then suddenly you're like, where do I go? Like, where can I continue my practice for cheap as well? So yeah, it's good to know that.
I'd say as well, you know, when later on in your career as well, that you know, setting up a print studio for me would be, you know, I don't make print all the time, so I think for anyone, having an established, you know, cooperative print studio like this means I can come in at any time and you know, it's all there, it's all waiting for me to start print. And whether you're a graduate or whatever stage you're at, I think that's just amazing. You know, not just here at Spike Print, but I think across the country, all the open access print studios are so vital to the kind of life of you know, art creativity. Is not just for access for members, but you know, the classes, the workshops. It's really vital. I think print's where it's at. I really believe it. So, you know.
We all think that.
Definitely.
I think, and Emily touched on it, it's really important to kind of, you don't have much of a budget, but what you get is a community of people as well, and like-minded people. I mean, you know, I came here from uni, and yeah, it's just such a lovely thing, and no matter where you start, you can kind of dip in and dip out. And you know, we've been here all this time, so we have a lot of members that started early, went on and did other things, have come back, and yeah, it's, the community of the space is just incredible. So yeah,
for sure.
Try and make it welcoming for new graduates as well, and not intimidating.
And the flip side of that, it relies on that, because obviously we have some staff, but you know, a lot of the time there's not technicians in the studio, and it is the trust of the fact that membership care about the studio, and they clear up and, you know, don't do any kind of crazy unsafe. I don't know. I mean,
not anymore. I mean, it used to go on, but now the health and safety is hard.
It's a miracle it works, but it does, because you know, with 150 members coming and going, you know, you can't,
and 24/7 as well.
That.
Exactly.
It does rely on everyone really caring enough to.
I was going to say, like, the proof is in your studio tour, because that is, you know, your studio is impeccably organised, I must say.
It doesn't feel like that, but thanks. No, it is.
It's very good, very good.
It's a tight space, but it functions 24/7, so it gets a lot of wear.
I mean, when people join, obviously they need to be experienced printmaker or have some experience, so they can work independently, because the technical assistance isn't really to induct people into a process, it's to help, you know, keep things running smoothly. And you know, when people join and they do an induction, into that area. So obviously they're familiar with all of the layout of everything. So I think it's because it's quite a smooth running studio, because you run it quite well as a tight ship in terms of, you know, introducing people into the space.
Yeah, I mean, we want to encourage experimentation and you know, really support people as they're learning, but also we have to kind of, yeah, very much control the health and safety and that around the people using the studio. But we do funnel quite a lot into our learning programs, so that, you know, you get supported time learning your process, and then you can go on to membership from that, you know, already familiar with the space and the process, so that when you are working more independently, it's not daunting and you're not coming up against any barriers.
Brilliant. I think, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether to ask for if anyone else has any more questions.
We are running over time, aren't we?
If not, I think, shall I pass over to you, Ilaria?
Yeah. Yeah, I was checking the chat, but I think it's been it's just been so much incredible information and really, really good to see. And thank you so much, Emily, for your talk. I feel like I'm currently working on another project that is about the sort of activist and social justice history of printmaking, and it's been great to see your work and just hear you talk about similar things that I've been mulling over. As usual, these talks are all like among people that love printmaking and love printmaking for specific reasons. Obviously, we're all here, kind of obviously finding connections. I guess I think if no one else has any other questions, I might close it here. I would just like to really thank Namara for joining me today on this last talk. It's been great to have you, knowing that your connection with Bristol and obviously the work you do in our studio. And thank you so much again, Katie and Emma and Emily, for joining us and for preparing the presentation, showing us around. It's been really, really lovely to listen to you and see the space. And I've never been to Bristol myself, but I'm it's definitely on the list now. I'm definitely coming down.
Well, well done to Edinburgh Printmakers for hosting those series, because it's, I think, really vital that we connect internationally as well as locally. That's such an inspiration. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, I'll close it here, but it's pretty much saying what you've just mentioned. Like this, as everyone is aware, probably it was a program of 5 talks. This is the final one, and I would like to thank all the speakers that took part in it and welcomed us into their printmaking facilities. So Lena and Kirsten were the first at Funen Graphics Workshop, and then Niviska and Yumi at Kingate Studio, Luther and Lisa at Powerhouse Arts and Manhattan Graphic Center, Simone and Silvia at Bisonte, and now Katie, Emma, and Emily at Spike Print Studio. So all the talks have been recorded and are all uploaded on the Edinburgh Printmakers YouTube channel and also on our website. This one will be soon. And this experience, just because this is the final one, I feel like I should sort of close out with some remarks, but this experience has been for me so rewarding and inspiring. I did not imagine it was going to receive such a great response from attendees. It's been such a privilege to see and to be able to see and hear different realities of printmaking all over the world and get to know our own each distinctive cultures and ways of working, but also really recognizing in each talk how there's a shared passion, shared challenges, and a shared drive that brings us all to this wonderful medium over and over again. We have received really good positive feedback and have been really grateful to see the attendance and the response. So I'm currently working and connecting with and scheduling other talks with more studios. So here I'm kind of going to ask final to the attendees before you all leave, if you work in a print studio and would like to take part, or if you know of a print studio that you'd like to see inside and know more and kind of a bit curious to see what they look like, their facilities look like, please write it in the chat and I'll do my best to sort of get in touch with them. write the name in the chat or sort of get in touch with us through our email. And yeah, I think, as you just said, Emma, I think it's really paramount in the current climate to continue establishing and maintaining meaningful connections and create opportunities to share our work and expertise among colleagues and artists, like across borders, across countries, within the same country as well, and just creating more access links to printmaking and education and art instead of barriers. So I'm going to close it there. Thank you all for attending tonight. It's been really such a pleasure to host all these talks. And yeah, sign up to our newsletter because there's going to be more talks scheduled soon. And
Thank
yeah,
you so much. Thank you. Yes.
thank you all and have a good night. Thanks, Amara.
Bye.
Bye
Lovely
bye.
to meet you as well, everybody.